Hi, welcome to Trends Talk 2014. My name is Jamie Vinkle, and with me today is Leslie O'Sullivan. Our topic is the power of infographics. In this video, we're going to talk briefly about the history of infographics. We're going to talk about some good and bad examples of infographics, some stats to back up why we should all be using infographics, and finally, we're going to let you know how powerful infographics can be using them today in marketing as marketers. So what is an infographic? The dictionary describes it as a visual representation of information or data, such as a chart or a diagram. It's something we may think has only been around for a few years, but in reality, infographics have been around since the beginning of humankind. In fact, even as far back as cave people writing on walls, that was information portrayed visually that we could take and use in our everyday lives. Even the Egyptians used hieroglyphs, which again is information being portrayed in a visual medium. Map makers, even from the days of the Dark Ages all the way up to today's society. Maps, again, are another example of something that takes information, puts it visually, and allows it to portray that information for everyday use. As far as the infographics we know of today, they were created around 1926 by a German doctor named Fritz Kahn. He would take his studies of being a doctor in biology and portray that information in a visual medium, such as an infographic. And those are the ones that we see most of today.
There are multiple studies out there that measure the growing trend of infographics, visual learning, and the benefits of infographics for providing information. For instance, visual aids in the classroom increase learning by up to 400%, and 90% of information that comes to the brain is visual. 65% of the population would consider themselves visual learners. There are 13 million Google search results for the term infographics. And just prior to the start of 2010 to the beginning of 2012, infographic search volumes increased by up to 800%. These stats are showing that infographics are growing in demand. And because of this demand, infographic creation is increasing by 1% each and every day. Publishers who use infographics grow in traffic up to 12%, compared to those who don't. An infographic has the potential to reach up to 15 million people because their nice layout, shareable story, and intriguing simplicity make them easy to share across all social media platforms.
So there's three key elements to having a successful infographic. The first element is having focused data. We want data that's properly sourced, that makes sense, and that's relevant to the infographic at hand. Secondly is a clear design. We need the infographic to be clearly designed so that the human eye can follow it clearly, get a good sense for the story, not get frustrated while trying to navigate through the infographic, and just overall for it to make sense. Thirdly, we need a shareable story, which is one of the most important things in any medium of marketing, is having that shareable story that people can relate to and share with their peers. So while there might be endless types of infographics, we've narrowed it down to 4 types that can help contribute to a successful infographic. The first is the how-to infographic, which is exactly as it sounds. An infographic that walks you through the steps of how to do something. The second infographic is a novel insight. Now this infographic will give you some information that might not be relevant for day-to-day life, but could give you some fun tidbits of information, something to help for those pub trivia nights. The third type of infographic is observational humor, which again is exactly as it sounds. Using humor to portray your message in an infographic medium. Very shareable, very likable, and as humans we like that shareability and that story that we can share with each other and laugh about. And the fourth type is a timely issue. Essentially, this takes any issue that's pertinent to that day and portrays it in an infographic medium.
There are 6 different types of design types for infographics. The first would be list type. This type of infographic is best suited if you want to show all the services that you offer. For instance, a marketing agency could show that they offer SEO, website design, and more. The next would be mixed charts. These types of designs are best suited for marketers who have to release large amounts of information at one time. For instance, Health Canada could use this type of infographic to show tons of different stats on the same type of subject. The third would be the process graph. This design is best suited to showcase a step-by-step process of how to do something. So, for example, how-to infographics would show exactly how to do something in a step-by-step format. Fourth, we have the repeated chart. This design can be used to compare and contrast different types of information. So for instance, as a marketer, you could use this to show how your website differentiates from the competition. Next, we have the single chart. This type of design is best suited for infographics that want to show one large piece of information. For instance, you could create an infographic that shows which country has the largest population. In each little country, you could put numbers and stats showing this. For 6, we have timing. And this is just as it sounds. It's a design used to show how something expands or changes over a period of time. For instance, you could use this to show and display dates and facts, or the expansion of social media over time, and much, much more. Next up, we're going to take a look at the good, the bad, and the ugly of infographics. We're going to show you what makes a good infographic and what makes a bad one. First up, we have 3 very bad examples of infographics. It's easy to see right off the bat why this infographic is very bad. Not only do none of the colors coordinate together, but the mismatched boxes, confusing connections, and lack of actual graphics don't do well to showcase the information. Infographics are about storytelling, but they're also about appealing graphics that draw on the reader's interest. The pictures in an infographic are not meant to be just fun. They're supposed to add something to the information, making it easier to comprehend. This second infographic is just a complete overload of information. They opted to using a flowchart design also, but they tried to pack in so much text information that you can hardly read the infographic, let alone comprehend the information. With an infographic, less is more, and a balance between text and pictures is key. Incorporate only the vital information, and if more explanation is needed, use the infographic to drive traffic to a lengthier blog post. Lastly, this infographic is the best of 3 evils, but it still has major flaws. For one, the bland colors do not suit the content of rich coffee. Secondly, the title of the infographic is not explained through the headers. And what I mean by this is that it just says coffee and then beans, roast, and brew, but it doesn't explain that it's trying to help you pick a coffee that suits your taste. The visuals of this infographic make sense for the content, but it was not made easy to follow.
Now let's take a look at some good infographics. Keep in mind those 3 elements we talked about earlier. We want focused data, clear design, and a shareable story. The first infographic is Mac versus PC. Again, a very shareable story. Everybody owns a Mac or a PC, and they have lots to say about why it's better than the competition. A very focused, clear design, easy to follow, our eyes like it, and of course, it's just overall fantastic. Secondly, we have an infographic called Gamers Get Girls, which contrasts how people meet on the internet. And it shows that by gaming online, you're actually more apt to meet somebody than online dating. Again, a very shareable story because we're all gamers, whether we admit it or not. Even if you play Candy Crush on your cell phone, technically you're a gamer. Secondly, it's very well designed. If you look at it, it's easy to follow, we enjoy it, and it's good and easy on the eyes. And of course, the third one is one called The Anatomy of a Perfect Website. Again, it hits all 3 elements. It's well designed, it's a shareable story, and the information is focused.
Now we're going to take a look at 3 different case studies of how 3 different marketers used infographics in their business. First up, we have Stuart Kirkpatrick, who is the head of digital at Yes College, a nonprofit organization. He opted to using infographics because he thought that it was the best way to easily convey complex amounts of information to his clients. Kirkpatrick decided to measure the success of his infographic through the amount of Facebook shares it received. This particular infographic was shared 1,547 times with an ultimate reach of 169,399 people. He also made sure to pay attention to the response that the infographic got and to use that information to polish up his work for next time.
Now let's take a look at Shona Anderson. Shona is a high-level PR executive. Whereas most marketers think about the ROI in infographics, when we put them out there into the internet world, we want to see the return on investment with that information. She's taken a bit of a different approach and gone the sentiment route. For her monthly updates with her clients, she uses infographics to portray the information and how far they've come. It's a great way to relate on a human level with your clients, and also, as I talked about earlier, really utilize the visual aspects of learning with human nature.
Matthew McAllister is a marketing specialist at Blue Fountain Media. He opted to using infographics as a tool for clients who maybe couldn't afford anything outside of a blog. McAllister created the above infographic for a company called eComplish, a B2B payment service. He put the infographic up on a company's blog and created a press release announcing its publication. eComplish saw the highest amount of distribution on that release, with over 3 times more pickups and more visitors to the blog than ever before. There was a 57% increase over the next most viewed post. Digital Journal and Yahoo Finance picked up the press release and infographic, resulting in 2 times more conversions than all other blog posts combined, and an increase in brand awareness overall.
We've talked about the history of infographics, talked a little bit about the visual statistics about visual learners and how important that is. Went through some good, bad designs, also talked about what makes a good infographic good. So what? Now we have to get it out there. Now we have to share it. How do we do that? How do we get it out? What's the most effective way for people to see our infographic? Well, first things first, we want to remember those 3 key elements from earlier about what makes an infographic good. We want a clear design, focused data, and a shareable story. But now we have to post it. Get it out there to the people, to the masses. The first and best way to do this is to put it in your blog. Embed the infographic in your blog, make it easily shareable so that others can curate your content for their content. Get those links interchanging so that it helps with your SEO as well. We can put it on Twitter. Take a small snippet from your infographic and tweet about it. Drive the traffic to the blog, to your website landing page where the infographic is. You can also use Facebook. As we talked about earlier, posts that have visuals embedded in them, like a picture or a video, are 100% more apt to be shared and interacted with. It's a no-brainer. Put it on Facebook, let people see it, and let that visual side of the brain take over. You can also use Pinterest. It's a visual website. Get the infographic on there, pin it, and again, drive that traffic to your blog or your landing page on your website. And last but not least, we can go to the infographic aggregators. There's websites that you can post this stuff onto daily, and people will see it, such as visually.ly or visually, and pictochart.com, just to name a couple.
We'd like to thank you for watching our presentation on the trend of infographics in the marketing world today. If you'd like to hear about more trends, please visit www.imcslc.ca.